How's it going, everyone? Toasty here with another Dragon Ball Z Dokkan battle video. Today, we're going to talk about your defense stat, how it works, how to calculate it, and compare it to the damage reduction ability. Before we get started, like always, any websites used in the creation of this video will be linked in the description below. Now let's get started. Starting off with the defense stat, it's pretty self-explanatory overall with this one. Basically, your character's defense stat is calculated using the base defense stat that's displayed on the card details. Using AGL LR Gohan as our example here, we can see that his defense stat is 11,816. This is an LR Gohan at 90% in the hidden potential system, so it's quite a bit higher than it normally would be. In game, this defense stat will be raised by 340% using leader skills. This is assuming we're running dual LR Gohan leaders, which in this case we would be. This brings us up to a defense stat of 51,990, but we still have to factor in his passive abilities and link set. From his passives, he gets an additional 100% defense plus the additional 10% defense at the start of the turn. After adding in the additional 110% defense from his passive, we get 109,179 defense. Gohan doesn't gain any defense from his links, so this is the number we're left with at the beginning of the turn. This isn't all though. Gohan has the ability to raise his defense on super attack, so let's factor that in now to see what defense we get after he supers. He raises defense on super by 30%, so adding that into the current 109,179 stat gets us up to 141,932 defense. Great, now we have our total defense stat until we receive another defense boost for the next turn. How does this help us in terms of taking damage though? Our current defense stat is subtracted outright from the amount of damage the enemy would normally deal. So say our enemy was going to be dealing 150,000 damage on a normal hit. We take that number and subtract our total defense from that number. So at 150,000 damage, we would only be taking 8,067 damage. If our enemy was to be super attacking with say a 350,000 damage hit, we would be taking 208,068 damage. That's it. That's how our defense stat works. It's not so difficult to get a grasp of once you realize that it's just a few multipliers and then a flat subtraction of damage from the enemy attack. Damage reduction is also relatively simple, but it doesn't rely on our card's defense stat to work. Whereas defense is like a shield that can take a certain amount of damage before it breaks, leaving our health bar open to taking the rest of the attack, damage reduction decreases the power of the enemy attack rather than trying to block it. Let's take a look at Strength Super Saiyan 3 Vegeta to see how this works. Vegeta reduces damage received by 80% for 10 turns from the start of his turn. Say we use Vegeta to take that 350,000 damage dealing super attack. The damage reduction in this case being 80% would remove 80% of that damage from the attack. So 350,000 damage minus the 80% damage reduction leaves us with an incoming super attack of 70,000 damage. That's not all though. Now we can factor in our defense stat. My Super Saiyan 3 Vegeta is at 100% hidden potential, so his defense stat is 11,871. Running him under the Vegeta's family category gets us a 340% boost to defense from leader skills, bringing us up to 52,232 defense. Vegeta has no links increasing his defense stat, so this is what we're left with since his passive also does not increase defense. Now when this 350,000 damage gets launched at us, it's reduced by 80% down to 70,000 damage, and with our defense stat of 52,232 at the ready, we'll only be taking 17,786 damage from this attack. This is clearly considerably less than what we would have been able to do with LR Gohan despite his extremely high defense stat. Does that mean that damage reduction is the better skill to prioritize? Sometimes. The reason it's not the outright superior of the two skills is because more often than not, damage reduction abilities have some pretty hefty restrictions that defense raising abilities don't. Cards with damage reduction typically lack base defense in order to balance out their damage reduction abilities. Vegeta has no defense boost in his passive at all, and once those 10 turns are up, he's toast. Taking a super at that point will obliterate most of your health bar, if not all of it. It's also important to mention that I used a card with one of the best damage reduction abilities in the game as an example. Not every card with this ability is going to be able to reduce damage by a whopping 80%. More often, you'll be seeing a reduction in the realm of 30 to 50%, with low defense stat to boot. Either that or the damage reduction is limited to only normal attacks, leaving you wide open to heavy damage on super. That being said, damage reduction is still an incredibly useful tool, and you can see it really shine when using support items like King Yemba, who reduces damage received by 50% for a turn. In cases like these, we can see that cards like LR Gohan, who have high base defense buffs or can raise defense, can potentially be equally as good, and in some cases even better than top tier tanks like Super Saiyan 3 Vegeta or Golden Frieza. At the end of the day though, in a more general sense, I would recommend using high defense stat to block incoming normal attacks, and rely on the damage reduction ability when you're potentially going to be super attacked. That about wraps things up for today. We got our first taste of what damage calculations are like, so when we do get to that video, you'll be a little more comfortable getting into it now that you have a slightly better idea of how we find the numbers for our stats. If you enjoyed the video, please like, share, and comment below what you would like to see next. If you didn't enjoy the video, go ahead and dislike and let me know what you think could be done better moving forward, but for now, it's been a pleasure, and I'll see you next time.